This next story is so backwards and so wild. Republicans in the state of Missouri have rejected a ban that would have banned children from carrying guns in public without supervision. Now, why we need children carrying guns even with supervision in public, I don't know. But definitely we shouldn't have kids carrying guns in public without supervision. And Republicans said, nah, let it happen. So wild. Here from Business Insider, the Republican-led legislature in Missouri voted down a provision that would ban minors from carrying guns in public without adult supervision earlier this week in a state that already has some of the weakest gun laws in the United States. The amendment was initially part of a bipartisan effort to pass legislation to increase public safety. In Missouri, the legislative body rejected the proposal by 104 to 39 votes. Democratic Representative Donna Beringer for the city of St. Louis was disappointed by the outcome and said law enforcement in her district supported the ban of children openly carrying firearms so that 14-year-olds walking down the middle of the street in the city of St. Louis carrying AR-15s. What is the logic behind protecting the ability for children to be out in public with guns without adult supervision? Again, why children need to be out in public at all with guns, no clue whatsoever. But to the specifics of this, that is so ludicrous. I honestly don't even know, except for Second Amendment, which again, as we've talked about in the past, is such a distorted view of what the Second Amendment is. The Second Amendment does not protect every single weapon of every single person. They can have every single thing they could ever dream of. That's just not what that is supposed to protect. But instead, because they got branded as that, it's become this crutch where we don't have to make an argument other than Second Amendment, and thus people are dying because of that line. And when I break down these types of subjects, generally I just want to stay really calm. I want to show you the logic and explain to someone, even if your heart isn't really in it, just intellectually why the stance is correct. And hopefully I do that somewhat well on a regular basis. But especially right now and going over this story, to think about the amount of lives that have been lost because we can't just do the bare minimum on proper laws that would protect the lives of people is absurd and makes me so enraged when covering these types of stories, because thousands of people are dying. And yes, to prevent gun violence, we have to focus on mental health and we have to invest in communities. And on the issue of mental health, for example, whenever the Democratic Party has put forward legislation on that, Republicans have stood against it. So it's also dishonest on that front. But we also have to address, in addition to all these other things, the gun control angle of it. And when we look at how we stand apart from other countries that are comparable to us, one of the things is how much gun violence we have. And another is how many guns and how unregulated our guns are. So it's not saying take away your Second Amendment. It's saying let's put in some common sense regulations so that people are safer, so that lives are more protected. And loosening, obviously this is where the law was, but preventing regulation that just keeps kids from being out in public by themselves with guns shows you how far we are from getting to those common sense solutions. It drives me crazy because the facts are on the side of those common sense solutions. As CNN writes here, a study published in January by a leading nonprofit organization that focused on gun violence prevention found that there's a direct correlation in states with weaker gun laws and higher rates of gun deaths, including homicides, suicides, and accidental killings. And then you have here new CDC Wonder data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show that states with the highest rates of overall gun death in the nation are those with weak gun violence prevention laws and higher rates of gun ownership, according to a new Violence Policy Center analysis. And then one of the things, because you can find particular examples of, well, this state has a lot of laws and still has a significant amount of gun violence that has to be discussed, and why this has to be done on a federal level is guns travel, because states are easy to travel from one to another within the United States, travel from weaker gun law states to more strict gun law states. And so if we don't do it on a federal level, we're not going to see the solutions that we need to. Here's an example of this from Boston University School of Medicine. Opponents of gun control have frequently pointed to high rates of gun violence in cities such as Chicago to argue that strong state gun control laws are not effective. But guns used in states with stricter gun laws typically flow from states with weaker laws, according to a new study from Boston University School of Public Health researchers. And then you have another example of this, specifically with New York. Almost 74% of guns used in New York crimes come from states with weaker gun laws. A new report from the New York State Office of the Attorney General offers an answer. The firearms used in that violence tend to come from other places that don't have strict gun laws. So the facts are there. We understand what we would need to do, and we're just not doing it because there is an ideology that tells people the only correct step they can take is a step towards less gun regulation. It doesn't matter any of the information you can put forward to advocate on behalf of the idea that lives could be protected with better gun laws. Doesn't matter because Second Amendment. You're misunderstanding the meaning of the Second Amendment. And as we talk about so often, clearly, it doesn't mean no weapons can be regulated. Nobody thinks everyone should be able to have a military-grade drone or be able to have nuclear weapons. And so then we're just deciding, where do we draw that line? How do we protect people's rights and protect people's lives? How do we do both of those? And there are ways we can do that. And it's not happening. And instead in Missouri, they're saying, nah, let kids carry guns in public. Whatever. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.